Analysts say Bitcoin could reach $100,000 in the coming months. For BitRiver, that would mean a steady stream of cold, hard, and virtual cash. Paolo Montesillo, TRT World.
Well, for more, let's go to Jeffrey Tucker in Great Barrington, Massachusetts. He's a cryptocurrency analyst and editorial director at the American Institute for Economic Research. Welcome back to the program, Jeffrey. Now, Bitcoin prices have soared almost 1,000% over the last 12 months. They've doubled in the last few months alone. There's no sign of that easing. Can you tell us more about what's behind this recent rally in Bitcoin? Is it just about the fact that more financial institutions, more companies are adopting the cryptocurrency?
Thank you, Oscar. There is that, but there's also a real fact, at least in the U.S., that these stimulus checks are going out all over the country. And all my friends in the industry say that every time these checks are hitting people's bank accounts, they're flipping them at Bitcoin ATMs and other exchanges just to convert their dollars to Bitcoin, because what's the point? I mean, these checks are kind of measly. $1,400 is not enough to get you through. And at the current rate of increase, Bitcoin's will be worth a lot more going forward. So that it's not just about big institutions, it's also about individuals. But generally what you're seeing in the markets is a growing belief that this stuff works, that it's going to go up. You don't want to be left out of the greatest investment of our lifetimes, probably. And as you say, the other thing is that the price patterns have broken the norm. We used to see Bitcoin go up, 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 and then down, down. Right? But that's not seemed to be happening. We broke through 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 and touched 60,000 over the weekend. And it doesn't feel like one of the buying frenzies that we used to have in the past. This seems more like a consolidation of industry and individuals in a time where a lot of people are expecting a high degree of inflation in the future. Bitcoin seems like a good bet for everyone.
Yes, can I ask you more about the threat of inflation? Because as you say, with this massive $1.9 trillion stimulus now law in the United States, there are fears that inflation will go up. So some investors, as you pointed out, are using Bitcoin as a hedge against higher inflation and a weaker dollar as bond yields rise. How do people use Bitcoin for that? Because traditionally, it really is the role of assets like gold that act as that buffer, isn't it?
Yeah. I've said since 2013 that Bitcoin was at least competing with gold. It might have surpassed it as a safe haven asset. And there's growing consensus out there that we are going to see higher inflation. The Fed continues to crank out money. Those money supply charts, M1 and M2, are beyond belief. We're seeing it suppressed right now because we saw an unprecedented collapse in money velocity ever since the lockdowns began, and an increase in savings. And once that trend shifts, then the prices are going to start moving. And we're going to start seeing, I think, it's very possible we're going to start seeing galloping inflation. And then the Fed has a real problem, because to get rid of all that money that had been pumping into the system to try to make locked-out economies grow, they're going to have to suck it out somehow, and that's going to mean raising interest rates, and that's going to lead to tremendous numbers of bankruptcy for a lot of very highly levered firms that have come to depend on paying 1%, 2%, 3%, are suddenly going to be paying 4%, 5%, 6%. It's enough to cause widespread bankruptcies and push the economy into recession. So there's a real chance that we're going to be visiting an inflationary recession going forward, and Bitcoin seems like a good safe haven from that.
Can I ask you about something technical to do with Bitcoin? We know that built into Bitcoin source code is the fact that there is a cap on the number that can be mined. I understand that that cap is about 21 million Bitcoins, and around 18 million have currently been mined and are in circulation. Is the fact that it is finite and a scarce resource, is that also helping to drive the price up right now?
Of course. Of course it is. When I first looked into this thing back in 2012, and I was asking myself, why is this thing valuable? Why is it priced at all? It's a digital good. Why can't you just produce infinite quantities of them? And then you realize the protocol really is very strict, has a very strict rate of creation, and there's an end date to this, just as with gold. That's the way the protocol was designed, to have a finite number of Bitcoin in the world, and once you achieve that, then there's nowhere to go but the price, insofar as it's valuable at all, is going to go up, up, up. And so what you're seeing now with markets anticipating this eventual end to the Bitcoin creation, and anticipating that, as markets always do, they're thinking rationally and looking to the future and trying to discount, the rate of increase back to the present. And so that is also a factor. Look, we could be living in an age of not hyperinflation. I don't believe that, but shockingly high inflation compared to what we've experienced over the last 40 years. And an asset that can't just be produced like like printing paper, it seems unusually attractive to not just to individuals, but institutions and governments and even central banks, which is going to be the next step in this process.
Now, we know that Bitcoin is no stranger to volatility. We've been talking about the rise and rise of Bitcoin in recent weeks, but what could actually bring the price down? What could cause a crash in the Bitcoin market at this point?
We've seen crash after crash after crash in the Bitcoin markets. It's always been 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. What's strange about the current markets, and it surprised me because I predicted 30,000. I thought it would fall to 17,000. I predicted if it goes to 40,000, it's going to fall down to like 23,000. That is not happening. So that sort of stair-step routine that we've seen for the last 11 years of Bitcoin doesn't seem to be going on right now. I suppose it's actually, I must tell you, I can't personally imagine conditions that are going to change the present price trajectory, apart from the normal kind of routine that we're seeing, which is like we bump up against a new level, and there's a slight pullback, and then the newspapers say, "Oh, Bitcoin crashed," and then whoops,
Okay.
48 hours later, it's recovered its value and got even higher. So this is just going to keep happening. I think it's hard. Of course, nobody knows the future, but it looks good.
Jeffrey Tucker, we'll have to leave it there, and I'm sure we'll be speaking to you soon about this very issue. Thank you again.